Break the world record by any means necessary. Across any game that has a record-chasing community, whether it be speedrunning, high scores, or piston doors, there has always been a mentality of bending the rules, finding a new strategy, new tech that completely changes the competition. The backwards long jump in Super Mario 64, rolling in NES Tetris, or using NAND carts in piston door circuitry. But across any game that has a record-chasing community, you also have the people that are so bored, they come up with the most wacky categories known to mankind. Like seriously, what the heck is Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles any %? Oh my goodness. Although these weird, jokey categories are usually really obscure, the one that we'll be talking about today, I can guarantee you know of 100%. It is as simple as Redstone can get, and you have probably even built one for yourself.
Do you know what today's video is going to be about? Because the one that you were in last time, we were talking about 4x4 piston doors. This one might be a little unexpected because we're going to be talking about the record progression of a 2x2 piston door.
Oh, okay. Quite a small one.
A build that you can make in 5 seconds with just 4 pistons. In 2013, this became the smallest 2x2 piston door, and it has kept that record with no chance of being beaten. But one Redstoner was determined to break that world record by any means necessary. So, let's take all those means away. No observers, no 1.5 Redstone update, no pistons. Before they were even in the game, players were making all kinds of doors, player launchers, and traps using the piston mod by Hippopotamus. Now, they didn't look like the pistons we know today. In fact, there wasn't even a sticky variant. But that didn't stop players from making piston doors, with the very first one being a hidden bookshelf entrance. And since there were no sticky pistons, the only option was just pushing the wall back and forth.
But there were no sticky pistons back then. So your only option for making any kind of door was just pushing the entire wall like this.
Yeah, I see.
Luckily, it wouldn't be too long until Redstoners could move on from boring bookshelves onto something that looks more like a traditional piston door. Sticky pistons would be added to the mod, and the first doors would be released in May. Doors with pressure plates, hidden staircases, even rail doors. People were going crazy now that they can combine both normal and sticky pistons. Jeb was already taking interest in the piston mod all the way back in March, and eventually got in contact with the creator Hippopotamus. In June, he would show the first texture of the not pistons, and a week later he would drop a first video of the pistons. Well, I guess he couldn't really come up with a better name. The video showed everything: pistons pushing players, pistons cycling blocks, a piston wall, and inspired by this video from Keith Major, the very first vanilla piston door.
Yeah, that's a classic, yeah.
The first ever piston door in vanilla. Just a week before he published the video, this piston door came out, made by a guy named Keith Major, and he used the piston mod.
Okay.
And it looks, pretty similar to the thing that Jeb made. It has a flush door on the top and it has a little stair poking out at the bottom. So this is very likely what inspired Jeb to make this door over here, this beautiful Jeb door as we now know it today. Now, I wish I could say that there were some iconic names in 2x2 development, but the designs are so simple that they could have been created by dozens of players at the same time. 2x2s basically became solved in terms of how small they could be. Many players were also trying to recreate the door showed off in Jeb's video, so much so that it eventually got the name the Jeb door. A lot of people were just trying to replicate this door all over YouTube, and that's where the name Jeb door came from, because, that's what they saw in Jeb's video, so they just called it that.
Now, a lot of early Redstoners did a lot of problem solving, something that Redstone is really good at teaching. But something else that's better is today's sponsor, Boot.dev. Boot.dev is the smartest way to learn how to code by making it fun. There are dozens of backend development courses in languages like Python, JavaScript, Go, TypeScript, C, so many freaking options, with each course having you code a lot and creating personal projects like a Pokédex, a web scraper, a maze solver. There's even a course that tells you how to find a programming job. And all these are constantly updated with new information. Lessons are built with an engaging XP and leveling system, just like a video game. And Boot.dev just released a cool new feature called the Training Grounds, a place where you can practice a bunch of coding challenges before going back to your coursework. Challenges take about 45 seconds to generate, but you can even customize it to focus on whatever skill you want to improve on just by typing in a prompt. So to check out all this really cool and amazing stuff, go to boot.dev and try out the courses for free. Then use my code CraftyMasterman to get 25% off your entire first year if you choose the annual plan. While bigger doors were getting smaller, faster, and more efficient, nothing changed much for the 2x2 piston door. It would take until February 2013 when Snapshot 13W09B came out for the 1.5 Redstone update. Now, most people know 1.5 as the update that added all kinds of things like redstone blocks, comparators, and hoppers. But we don't care about any of that. In this snapshot, there is a small change to pistons, making setups like this now possible. It works because of a quirk we named earlier called quasi-connectivity, where pistons can be activated from a block away so long as it receives a separate update from a block nearby. This new change allowed for pistons to be that updater block instead of relying on a separate component like a rail or a redstone lamp, which takes us all the way to the beginning of this video. February 27th, 2013 is when this snapshot came out, and February 27th, 2013 is when this 2x2 became possible, and also this Jeb door, but that's besides the point. 4 pistons and a single redstone line, and just 24 blocks in volume. Where do you even begin to make this smaller? Although Redstoners have strived to break records by any means, it was time for those Redstoners to get new means. 1.8 added the slime block, which introduced new types of piston door layouts and even a new redstone community making giant flying machines and robots. The 2x2 door, however, remained unchanged. The most that happened was this joke video from Spacewalker.
And the reason it kind of sucks, right? You mentioned how you need to put a wall in front of it, right?
Yeah.
Well, the problem with slime blocks is that they stick to everything. So, you can't really put a wall because, it reaches the piston push limit. There's too many blocks.
The unseamless, uncontained door that stuck to any wall around it and changed its own volume depending if it was opened or closed. Slime blocks were still not enough. Redstoners needed something game-changing. Something that would literally redefine Redstone forever. 1.11 added the Observer, and well, this was more like it. This block changed everything and made so many records unbeatable. The 4x4, which we've covered in the last blockumentary, Sacred Redstone's 56 block 3x3 in 2017, the 4x4 vault door, and its very recent update, observers took over the Redstone community. And the 2x2, well, our story can finally begin. In 2019, 2 Redstoners, Ganymede and Brudjeff, were messing around with making a tiny 2x2 door when they created this. Another 24 block design, but this was the closest thing to anything smaller. So what's actually going on? This observer gives these sticky pistons a 2 game tick pulse, short enough to make them spit out their blocks. This third piston pushes a row of blocks across the top, activating the second pair of pistons on the other side with this observer. And finally, this observer detects that and sends the row of blocks back. This single observer sticking out the side was the only thing in their way from claiming the record right then and there. But there wasn't much else they can do, so they waited.
But there was a random block that Mojang added that maybe had a little bit of a chance to beat the record. So if you just jump in this drawer over here, we have the Lectern.
I've seen it in videos, yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of things that I might have seen in videos, but yeah, never used myself, so.
So plot twist, they didn't actually have to wait. 19W02A came out on January 9th, 2019. This snapshot gave Lecterns some redstone functionality, including the ability to use as a 1-block pulse generator. So finally, they could replace that observer and lever that was sticking out the volume, but
there is a such thing as record regulations that the piston door community collectively set. And having your input within the volume kind of breaks those regulations, because how do you expand it? How are you gonna put a repeater into this or put it into a lever? This doesn't work anymore. This just breaks. You can't do a lever input or any of these button inputs. It just doesn't work properly anymore.
Yeah, it was not counted as the record for 2 main reasons. 1, the input itself is within the door volume, something we've seen in other videos, therefore you cannot actually move the input without changing the door itself. And 2, piston doors should be able to work with any kind of repeater input. The moment you put a repeater with 2 ticks of delay or more, the door just doesn't work. So, they waited. Skulk sensors came out and a design was made, but it could activate due to outside vibrations powering the door. So they waited. Calibrated skulk sensors, skulk shriekers, same problem. So they waited. Ganymede would have to stop relying on blocks at this point because entities were the only way to get anywhere close to tackling the record. So near the end of 2022, he made a proof of concept 21 block 2x2. Now it had several boats poking out the door volume, relied on a suffocating allay, which can die upon relogging, and had a pufferfish which could inflate if you walk too close to it and just break the door. But it was something, I guess. Attempts were getting so desperate that he even proposed item shadowing, which if you don't know what that is, don't worry, it's just an extremely stupid game mechanic. While Ganny was toiling away at making his own 2x2, the inevitable happened. Yeah, these two are back again. They were also working on making a 21 block 2x2 when they saw a video sent by Hamster. No AI mobs with no gravity. It's a pushable hitbox. Now if this sounds familiar, this was actually the very first time Kui and Doormaker learned about non-ticking mobs, something that they would use later on in their attempts to make the smallest 4x4, which I covered in this video. So messing around with this new trick, they made a 21 block 2x2 door that made use of a non-ticking wither getting pushed up and down onto this pressure plate, which activated the bottom pistons. But there was a slight problem. They had no idea what they were doing. You see, the video that Hamster sent was made by another player, Rhythm, and in the description it mentioned that that tech was developed by another player named Sava. And there was one detail that was not known when this door was built. You can't actually get a frozen non-ticking wither in survival. The closest thing the duo could use was an Enderman, a mob which happened to be 0.1 blocks too short to reach the pressure plate. So after Kui posted it to the record logs, Hamster let them know that their door was illegitimate, and it was back to square one. Every obscure game mechanic, every weird mob, entity, block placement, any combination was no match for literally just 4 pistons and a redstone line. That is, every obscure game mechanic at the time. 1.21.6, the update that most people know for adding the happy gas, also changed one of Minecraft's oldest items, the lead. You could now lead 2 mobs together. There was another chance that the record was possible. So Ganymede and Doormaker finally teamed up at the end of May. From 4 AM to noon, Ganny stayed up all night sending DMs back and forth with Doormaker. They were still doing this within snapshots, so there was no multiplayer. And after many hours of messaging back and forth with entities, minecart riding heights, and the new lead mechanics, they did it. After 12 years, they beat the new longest running Minecraft record, and also probably the dumbest redstone record of all time. The world's smallest 2x2 door at 21 blocks in volume. This is a functional 2x2 piston door.
Okay. How hard is it actually to, like, if you would build this in survival?
Right, so what is actually going on here? Well, first we have the top 2 pistons, which are pretty trivial. They're just activated by this lever. And next to that, we have a stack of 2 minecarts on a repeater. One that is floating with a cat inside of it, and one that is sitting on top of the cat with a bee. Connected to that bee, we have a chicken that is hovering over this tripwire. When the pistons push down, so do these minecarts, dipping the chicken into the tripwire, activating the bottom 2 pistons. When the pistons are retracted, the minecarts move back up, and the mobs are at the perfect height to keep the chicken within the door volume and above the wire. Another floating nan cart with a shulker keeps the chicken centered and also takes some height away by making the lead diagonal. Now I'm pretty sure many of you are asking a very pressing question. Doesn't the chicken lay eggs and activate the tripwire hook because of that? Well, introducing the Chicken Jockey, a Minecraft chicken that's infertile and doesn't lay eggs. All you need to do to build this door in survival is find a chicken jockey and kill the zombie on top, and now you get an infertile chicken. Oh, you were wondering about the floating tripwire hook. You have some pistons, you place an end crystal, but yeah, you get that. A headless piston. Then, step 2 is you do another thing. You do this kind of setup, and then you put your tripwire hook. If you unpower this lever, you have a floating tripwire hook.
Who finds out these things?
Now, hopefully when I upload this video, there won't be any other earth-shattering historical redstone builds being posted to the world, you know? This isn't really something that happens that often. Yeah, I'm sure that won't happen.
Oh shit. And thank you boot.dev for yet again sponsoring the channel. If you want to check all of their stuff out, the link will be in the description. And yeah, this world's gonna be available for members. Subscribe.